And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Sports Trader Show. My name is John Tedora. For those of you that don't know me, hey, what's up? Nice to meet you. I am a former businessman. A couple years ago, I sold my businesses. I left my life behind and I started a brand new one. Now, I make money. This is great. I make money from sports. I live sports, I love sports, and I make a living off of sports. And how do I do that? Well, they call me a sports trader for a reason. I created a method that allows me to trade the sports markets just like you trade the stock market. And I do that quite often. Actually, I do it for a living, and it's been a very lucrative living and has allowed me the last few years to have an amazing life where I travel pretty much around the world, wherever I want to. I spend most of my time in Asia or Europe. I do fly back and forth to the United States, of course, as well. And I have a good time. I really enjoy myself. I talk about that on this podcast as well as what's going on in the world of sports. And throughout the shows, I like to drop some nuggets along the way and teach people to do exactly what it is that I do, which is trade sports. Now, let's talk about what's going to be on the show today. Let me give you a little synopsis. I like using words like that. Synopsis. Well, today I went to the doctors. I just want to share this with everybody. I went to the doctors just to check up. Nothing's wrong with me. Thanks for your concern. But what was great is I got on the, I've been inside like everybody else. I've been stuck inside. So I was a little concerned that I'd probably put on some weight or, that I was living an unhealthy life. My blood work came back. It was all great. And somehow, I'm not sure how, but somehow I lost 12 and a half pounds. So I am extremely happy about that. Do I have an applause button here? There we go. There we go. Look at that. The crowd goes crazy. People are super excited. Turn it up. There we go. Lost 12 pounds. Now, I'll probably gain it back in a couple days. Yesterday, as a celebratory fashion, I was so excited that I lost 12 pounds that I went out and bought some pasta and I came home and cooked it and ate it. So that'll probably be destroyed. Throughout today's show, we're going to be talking about some cool stuff. UFC 249 crushed all the gambling records. It's the highest performing UFC as far as the books go in the history of UFC. NBA negotiations continue. The Illinois governor has said that players owe it to America to actually play baseball. NFL MVP odds are in. We're going to go over that. I got some great news from Mike Tyson as well as a cool theory of what I think is going on there. And then we're going to wrap up the show with some tweets. I do want to remind everybody out there, though, for those of you that would love to support what it is I do or just check it out, just thumb around and see what's going on, you can go check out our website, which is sportstradingsystems.com. sportstradingsystems.com. On the website, you'll see tons of cool stuff. There's a little area called the Score Metrics Lab. You can go inside there. There are probably 50, 60, 70 articles about different ways that you can learn about sports trading. All the information is free. It costs you nothing. There's also a link at the bottom of the main page which says newsletter. You can join the newsletter, and we will send you content directly to your email, which is really cool. And it's all about educating you and teaching you about sports trading. I want you to be on the same level as me. If you'd like to take the next level, you can do that. It's $8. I've lowered the book. I wrote a book. It's normally $46, but right now the book's only $8. It's an educational book that you can learn how to sports trade. It'll tell you all about everything I do. It'll teach you all the basics, and it'll teach you how you can create your own sports trading systems. Also available on the website, which is sportstradingsystems.com. There's a link in the description below that you can also take a look at as well. All right. So we wrapped up some of that stuff. I told you about how slim I am now. I feel svelte. Go back and look at some of the other videos and see if I look any slimmer. I'm gonna guess I do. I gotta look. I look buffer. No, same. All right, whatever. Anyway, let's talk about UFC 249. UFC 249. Now, obviously, a lot of the data that we're going to talk about over the next few weeks are skewed. Obviously, I'm a huge data guy. I follow the numbers. It's all number driven stuff for me. It's not just number-driven stuff on what's happening today, but the way I develop these systems and the way I live my life is based off of, and the way I've done all my other investments before as well, are based off of the fact that there are numbers that exist today, but those numbers are connected to something else. So it's all historical, back-driven data. If you want to use it in a real-life scenario, you could talk about what's happening right now with the coronavirus. No one knows what's going on with the coronavirus. Every day you turn on the television and you get new information. And the reason that's happening is because there is no data trail to follow. We have no baseline. We have no idea what this virus was doing 10 years ago because it apparently didn't exist. So it won't be for years from now until they'll be able to look back and go, remember that coronavirus thing that was doing this thing and we found out this and then we found out all these other things in the beginning. We didn't know that. That's what will happen. And that's what happens with everything. So we're talking about UFC. UFC now has a history and is a history of being something that people have been able to gamble on and been able to invest their money in. And it's really interesting to me that people are stuck at home. They crushed it. They doubled their 2.6 times their normal buy rate. They absolutely crushed the amount of the amount of pay-per-views that they sold. ESPN's got to be thrilled with their partnership with them because Dana White was able to pull off that fight in Jacksonville. It's just amazing. Now they did lose the gate money, and the gate money for UFC averages somewhere between $9 to $11 million, depending on the size of the venue. And obviously they didn't make the gate money, but they made it back in spades by doing this pay-per-view and by getting it out there and allowing people to be able to sit at home and feel normal for a Saturday night and watch some fights. I'm super happy everybody was able to do that. But the books are saying that they brought in 15% or more at some books than any other UFC pay-per-view in the history of pay-per-views. And it made me start to think to myself, I wonder which fights are the fights that have been gambled on the most. Like, where's the most money been in UFC? Like, it's got to be like the big huge names, right? So I looked up the information for us, and I have it for us right here in front of us. So number one is actually what's amazing. Let's start at the bottom. Number 10 was a Ronda Rousey fight, which is actually pretty amazing to me. A lot of money on the Ronda Rousey fight. And if you look through here, you're going to see a name that is pretty prevalent in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 out of the 10, Conor McGregor is in there. Now, there's a reason for that. Nobody promotes a fight like Conor McGregor. Nobody gets people excited. Nobody gets people engaged. Nobody gets people interacted. People either love Conor or they hate Conor, and that drives emotional money. And if you read my book, you'll see that's one of the things that I talk about. I talk about emotional money and how when you're investing in anything, and not just sports, but if you're going to invest in anything, if you're going to buy something, if you're going to invest in a restaurant, if you're going to buy a stock, you can't do it with any type of emotion attached. So when you feel yourself having this emotion of, I love this idea. This is a great idea. I love it. You got to take a step back. I love this investment because I feel something for this investment. You have to take a step back. It's got to be data-driven information that makes you spend your money where you want to spend your money and where you invest your money where you want to invest your money. Let's go back to the list, though. Number one is actually surprising to me. I really did not think this would be number one. And I got to be honest, there's not one Brock Lesnar fight on here, which I thought Brock would be a top 5, top 6, top 7, somewhere in the top 10. Not one Brock Lesnar fight in here. It's really, really shocking to me. Number one was Khabib versus Conor. That one doesn't come as a huge shock to me. Number 2 of all time was Conor versus Cowboy Cerrone, that was mind-blowing to me. UFC 249, which just happened this past weekend, was the number 3 over invested fight of all time. Gambling on fights, that's number 3 of all time, and that in itself is shocking to me. Really shocking. And I tell you the other thing that was shocking to me too was number 9. Number 9 was Jorge Masvidal versus Nate Diaz. I have no idea how that got into the top 10, but that was for the BMF belt. They made up a belt called the Bad Mother Fricker belt, the BMF belt, and they fought for the belt. So they made up a fake belt, got people to buy the pay-per-view, got people invested. They got The Rock involved. The Rock came out and held the belt between the guys. And it was a decent fight, but it was number 9 overall. It's amazing to me. This will not only show you, if you look at how recent some of these fights are, they're all pretty recent. The only one that's really an older fight would be a UFC 194, and to me, that is the spike for the sport. You see Conor McGregor show up at this press conference in a suit, and if you've never seen it, you've got to Google it. They do this really awesome press conference where they have all these fighters and they're all sitting on tiered seats, and McGregor shows up in a suit. Most of the fight world has no idea who he is. Everyone's got a microphone and they're all going to go back and forth and talk. And UFC fighters are boring talkers. Most fighters in general are not great talkers. There are very few Muhammad Alis. There are very few Conor McGregors that you remember. They're in your mind forever. There's been some great fighters, but the way these guys are able to bring it all together and promote a fight just by talking is what really separates them, their greatness, from other people. It's not just the way they fight. McGregor's an above-average fighter. He's a good fighter. He's not the greatest of all time. We've watched him lose probably 3 or 4 times now. I don't know how many times. I actually made that up. But the fact is he could sell a fight. And it shows if you look at his numbers. You can see on the 7th fight down that Conor McGregor at 194, Conor McGregor versus Jose Aldo. Nobody knew who McGregor was. McGregor comes out and knocks out Aldo. You know, at the time, this is the most bet fight of all time for UFC. Comes out and knocks out Aldo in like 18 seconds. So, I mean, you know, UFC has just been on fire since. And you can tell the popularity of a sport by how the bookmakers are being affected by it. So, you know, obviously the NFL is the number one sport in America, and it's number one for a reason. Obviously, people love to watch it, but the NFL has figured out a way to make people interact with it in a way that no other sport has been able to match or copy. It started with baseball, with fantasy, with rotisserie baseball that turned into fantasy, baseball that turned into fantasy football. So between fantasy football and actual gambling on football, people are so engaged in football. That is why the popularity is there. And UFC is really starting to gain a lot of that right now as we see what's going on. Now let's talk about some things that are going on around the world. And to me, what's really interesting and what's really going to, I think, play out over the next few weeks and really define to us or for us what's going to happen over the next few months or years or so is what is going to happen with these professional sports. Now, the commissioners are sitting down with the owners first and trying to make some type of agreement so the owners can say, yes, we're okay with this. Now they're going to pitch it to the players. Then it'll go to the unions. So the NBA is out front on this. The NBA appears to be out front on this, and they're trying to continue their season. Now, for those of you that don't follow or don't know, the NBA was about 60 games into their season, and then they had to pull the plug, which was sad for me. If you don't know, I have a system built around the NBA. I trade 3 different markets. I trade the NBA, I trade the NFL, and I trade, obviously, the Major League Baseball. But my system that is put together for the score metric system, which is what my systems are called, the score metric system for basketball, was having an amazing year. So as an investment system, I was up 174% before, and we were driving. Like we were driving. There's a couple different systems that were just starting to hit their peaks, and we were looking to be at last year we were 200 some odd percent. So I thought we'd do the same thing this year, but unfortunately we got stopped before the end of the season. So I'm looking forward to trying to finish the season and finish out my market, and to continue to grow my wealth. So, but anyway, what's going to happen now is let's do this. I've actually got some stuff here that we can read along together. So discussions centered. Now this was recently done. The commissioner, as I said, met with the owners. Discussions centered on health and safety concerns, which they should have. I think that's got to be number one for anybody, including the goal of getting team officials and players comfortable with the idea that a positive test for the coronavirus upon return would not shutter play. Now, this is going to be interesting, really. This is going to be the NBA, if they are to come out first, whoever comes out first, and I believe it'll be the NBA. I believe that's what will happen. If the NBA comes out first, they're going to create the model that other leagues are going to either copy, try to emulate, or modify from. So it's interesting to see how this is going to play out. Silver, who's the commissioner of the league, told those on a call that if a positive test would shut us down, we probably would not go down this path. Of course not. You have to create some type of systems in place if you're going to restart these leagues, so that if there happens to be a positive test, it doesn't shut down the whole thing. You can't have that happen. You have to have something in place so if a team gets sick, that's what I want to know. What if an entire team gets sick? What if an entire team happens to catch coronavirus? What happens? They just sit out until they're better? They take losses until they're better? The question remains, how many positive tests would be too many? That is among the questions that the NBA and the NBA Players Association and medical experts will have to come to terms with in the coming weeks before the league and the union can greenlight a resumption of play. Now, it appears that this is out there. They put this out there, and they're pitching this to see what's going to happen, who's going to bite. I'm guessing that they put this out there, and they're throwing it out to the players. This is how negotiations start. Here's what we're offering. What do you guys think about it? Give us your opinion on this. And the players are going to react to it and move forward. Now, what is that reaction going to be? I don't know. I have a strange feeling that some of the concerns are going to be focused around money, and that's going to be an issue for a lot of players, I think. And it's going to set the tone for baseball as well. So I think that is part of what's going on here, and we'll get on it. We'll get touch on that subject actually coming up with this part here too. So let's talk about this, because this isn't just something that's happening in the NBA. It's also happening in Major League Baseball. Now, baseball is having their own issues, and they also have met and put together a package, and they've sent it to the players. Their package consisted of a 50-50 revenue split. So what these teams did was they said, listen, we can't afford to pay you the contracts that we originally negotiated. Those were built upon the fact that we were going to have 81 home games. Each team gets 81 home games. And we were going to sell X amount of tickets, and we knew that we could afford to pay you these numbers. We can no longer afford to pay you these numbers. But we'd like to reopen our business based upon the television revenues that we all know we're going to get. Now, we know that we share a certain amount of television revenue for our league. The Major League Baseball package that is sold actually is something that's shared as an owner split. But in baseball, which is much different than football does not have this. But baseball has their own local markets. Baseball and basketball both have local markets. And they're able to sell their television packages to these local markets. So, a team like the New York Yankees has a much bigger market that can afford to pay a lot more money. So that's how they can afford to pay their teams more money than, say, the Pittsburgh Pirates or the Kansas City Royals, because they've got bigger markets. So what you're dealing with now is you're going to deal with what's going to happen next and what these players are going to want. Now, this just happened yesterday. They literally just met yesterday, and they just sent this over to the Players Union. But today there was a headline on Yahoo Sports that says, Illinois governor, which, by the way, is J.B. Pritzker. Illinois governor says players owed it to the American people to take a pay cut and restart Major League Baseball. So the governor's come out and said, 24 hours after they got this proposal's been sent over, players owe it to the American people to take a pay cut and restart Major League Baseball. That's an interesting position to take. He goes on to say, just 24 hours after the owners okayed the plan on their end, one politician, this is from an article from Yahoo, by the way, one politician is already painting the players as selfish and saying they owe it to the American people to get back on the field as the country still wrestles with the coronavirus crisis. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker said on Tuesday, while the league was giving player unions the first formal proposal, that he's already disappointed in many ways that players are holding out for these very, very high salaries, and said everybody is sacrificing. And I'm guessing he's implying that the players should sacrifice too. Now, first of all, I am a firm believer in this. The talking heads that are always on TV saying this guy gets too much money, this guy gets too much money, this guy gets too much money. I believe that this is something that somebody taught me a long time ago, and it's always stuck with me. I believe that every man or woman makes their own deal. So while I can say that I don't believe that so-and-so deserves that kind of money, at the end of the day, it is totally up to them, and I will never hold any resentment for someone that doesn't want to play, perform, or work for a certain amount of money. Now, if you are given no other option, say a guy comes up and shows up to try to work for me somewhere, and I say, well, I'll pay you $15 an hour to do this job, and he says, well, I'm not going to do it for $15 an hour, and I say, well, that's all I can afford. I can afford to pay $15 an hour, and he says, well, I won't take $15 an hour. I need more, and by the way, I haven't had a job in 6 years because no one will hire me. Okay, well, that's probably why you want too much money. So I think it's about knowing your value and then holding firm to that value and understanding what your value is. The guy that wants $15 an hour may only be worth $15 an hour. He may be worth more. I would never know it because he wouldn't work for 15. So the players already have value set. These players understand what their value is. They've got contracts. So to say that these guys are being selfish, well, first of all, they haven't had an opportunity to even make that decision yet. So you don't know if they're selfish or not. And secondly, at the end of the day, they're going to make that decision on their own. It's totally up to them. And we, as sports fans, just have to wait. Because these two leagues are going to set the stage for everything that happens forward. If the NBA can't get a deal done with the Players Union, or Major League Baseball can't get a deal done with the Players Union, NFL Players Union is going to fight and scratch and kick and claw, and there's a very good chance that we don't see sports for the rest of the year. Similarly, if they don't come up with a plan that takes care of a coronavirus positive test, which there are going to be some coronavirus positive tests, if they don't take care of a plan that puts something in place to make sure that the seasons don't end because of a positive test, we are not going to have sports. And I don't know about you. I mean, look, selfishly, I make money from sports. So these are my markets, and when they're open, I make myself a very good living from what it is that I do. It's the only thing that I do now. So selfishly, I want these markets to open for that reason. But health and safety come first. And of course, making sure that whatever they do today doesn't affect what happens tomorrow would be very, very high on my priority list. And that's how I feel about that. You guys can leave comments in the little section below. I'd love to hear your opinion on this as we go forward. Now, before we do go forward, excuse me, for those of you watching on YouTube at home, I do want to ask you to do me a favor. All the kids are saying it, and I'd like to repeat it. Can you please just smash the like button? Just click the little like button if you've been watching this far. You've enjoyed what we're doing here. Please do it. We just started this YouTube channel like 10 days ago. So we're working our way through it. It's going to be like kind of a companion to what we do at our website, which is sportstradingsystems.com. So eventually these two things will work a little more hand in hand than what they do now. Obviously, this is brand new. We're working our way through formats and things like that, but we're having fun with it. And so far, the feedback's been pretty good. So if you guys don't mind, click the like button. If you love what we're doing, click the subscribe button and get the alerts so that we can end up right inside your mailbox. Now, we're going to talk about something, and this is one of those things that is my opinion. And maybe I've read too much into this, but this is one of those things that is my opinion. I am personally incredibly fascinated by the individual known as Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson to me is one of those, psychologically, is one of those people that I could listen to talk all day long. Now, maybe some of that comes from the fact that as I was growing up, and when I say growing up, I'm in my 20s, Mike Tyson is just killing people. I mean, that was must-see TV. You had to go somewhere and watch the fight or pay for it at your house to watch Mike Tyson. He was the most ferocious boxing champion of all time. I don't think there's been anybody who's ever been better as far as the ferocity of the man. Just absolutely positively a killer on every level. And he retired. You know, he couldn't do it anymore. The reality of it is you can only maintain that level of ferocity for so long. And when you start to make millions and millions and millions of dollars and you own tigers, and you can look up Mike Tyson. He is a legendary for being an animal and also for being such an eccentric person because, you know, at 21 years old, he's got, you know, $30 million in the bank. All that's going to meet up and it's going to burn you out. And that's what happened to Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson is interesting to me because when he goes on these shows, or if you've ever watched his show, which I think is called Hot Boxing, it's a YouTube show. It's a YouTube podcast. It's called Hot Boxing, where Mike gets super high and like has really interesting guests on there. It's pretty cool. Mike's a little touched up in the head. Like he'll talk about the things in his life and how he doesn't really, he talks about fighting a little bit, doesn't like to talk about it too much because it takes him back to a place. He doesn't train. He doesn't work out because it brings his ego out. And he doesn't like that guy when he has his ego. Well, most of you have seen the footage of Mike Tyson working out now. This has gone viral. Mike Tyson is working out at 53 years old, and that guy looks like he could kill people. I mean, just murder people. But this is a quote from Mike Tyson. "It may not be over yet. Anything's possible. I feel unstoppable now." Now, this is the way Mike Tyson says that he used to think and the way he used to talk. And he's talking like this again now. "The gods of war have reawakened in me, ignited my ego, and want me to go to war again. I feel like I'm young again." So a few weeks ago, I'm watching something on I don't even remember what I was watching. Something on YouTube, and I'm watching it. I think it was the hot boxing. It was hot boxing episode, and I think he had some mob guy on there, to be honest. And at one point, somebody said to him, "You should become your own promoter. Why have you not become a promoter? You know the game, you know the boxing game." And he's like, "Yeah, maybe we should do that." He goes, "Maybe there'll be an announcement coming up soon." This is my theory on what's going to happen here. I believe that Mike Tyson is going to come back and fight again. I believe Mike Tyson is going to come back and fight again one more time. And I think when he does it, he could fight anybody. He could fight absolutely anybody, and people will buy it. It doesn't have to be somebody great. It doesn't have to be somebody young. It doesn't have to be somebody old. It could be, you could put him in there with a bunch of live chickens, and people would buy it to see Mike Tyson chase down and smash live chickens. Mike Tyson is going to fight one more time. This is my theory. And when I'm right, I'm usually right. When I'm right, I want you all to come back here and tell me how amazing I was that I predicted this. Mike Tyson is going to fight one more time, and he's going to use it not only to make himself $100 million, but he's going to use it to launch a new fighting promotion company, Mike Tyson Promotions. That's what he's going to do. He's going to try to jump in and take a piece of the boxing game. And watch it happen. Watch it happen. And when it happens, remember that you saw it here first. And don't forget to smash the like button. All right, we got a couple more things we're going to cover in this show. We're going to go back to my favorite topic again. And, you know, my favorite topic, of course, as I've talked about many times, is football. I love football more than anything in the world. And not just because I make money from football by trading sports, but I love football because football makes me happy. Football's fun to watch. I love watching football. And I love speculating on football. So what recently came out was Caesars Sportsbook in Las Vegas, which is still putting out numbers even though they're not open, has put out the NFL MVP odds. And wouldn't you know it, first on the list is Mr. Patrick Mahomes. Second is Lamar Jackson. Jackson's got some decent odds. But what comes in third is super interesting to me. And the way this list breaks down going forward is super interesting to me. And this will tell you what Vegas thinks about what's going on inside the world of the NFL. Now, people were wondering, gee, what's going to happen with Dak Prescott's contract? That's been such a story over and over and over again. Well, Vegas doesn't care. Vegas thinks he's got the third best odds in the entire NFL to be MVP. Is Dak Prescott a franchise quarterback? That's argued over and over and over again. Well, Vegas thinks he is. Vegas actually thinks he's the third most important player, or has the possibility to be the third most important player in the NFL this year. Most valuable player. They see value in Dak Prescott. So when people argue, is Dak Prescott worth $33 million or $37 million? Third most valuable guy in the NFL. So you tell me. Fourth on the list, Russell Wilson. Coming in, the last two are just the most shocking to me. Everybody buying into the Tom Brady hype is just crazy to me. Tom Brady's 43 years old. He's going to go to Tampa. He's going to be a game manager. He's going to make some decent plays. He's going to take them to the playoffs. But I don't think Tom Brady's going to go there and throw for 6,000 yards. He's going to have the opportunity in that offense to actually throw the ball a lot. But I don't believe that Tom Brady's going to go there and throw for 5,000 yards. I don't believe that. I don't believe he's going to be in the race for most valuable player. I could be wrong. I hope I am. He's only a little bit younger than me. He would make me feel young again to know that somebody that age could win NFL MVP. I'll tell everybody that. I'll be like, just a few years away. I'm not old. I'm only a couple years older than the NFL MVP. So I'm rooting for Tom Brady. And last on the list, he's easily the most shocking person that he's even on the list for me. Kyler Murray has the same odds as Tom Brady, 16-1. Put $100 on Kyler Murray. You can win $1,600 if he wins the NFL MVP. I am blown away. I am blown away that is even. He's even on the list. Listen to me. The kid had a really good year last year. He really did. It was a very good year, very impressive. Played above his skis, in my opinion, for a 5'8" quarterback. That offense is perfectly suited for him. He's got a great lineup of weapons set up to come back. They just brought in DeAndre Hopkins. Their offensive weapons are going to be loaded right now. Second year in the system, second year in the NFL. He's definitely going to take a step forward. I do not believe that he's going to be an MVP candidate because the rest of that team is just not built to win inside the division that they're in. And then that's important. So a lot of people look at teams and go, oh, that's a great team. That's going to be an amazing team. Well, you know what? That might be an amazing team. But that team has got to play in a really, 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 really tough division. That team has got to play against Seattle twice a year. That team has got to play against San Francisco, who was just in the Super Bowl, twice a year. That team has got to play against the Rams, who are going to be competitive twice a year. That is a tough division. You can't win MVP running through a gauntlet like that. Tom Brady has been as great as he has been because he has run through a gauntlet. I believe he has run through a gauntlet every year of absolute nobodies. The Jets, the Dolphins, and the Bills have all been pathetic. You want to know why the Patriots have been so dominant? They don't even get tested most of the time throughout the season. You know? So Kyler Murray is, to me, shouldn't be on the list. Now there is another way to look at this. And you could say iron sharpens iron. Kyler Murray is going to play against some really good defenses, going to play against some really good teams, and he's going to become a better player every week, and he's got a chance to be MVP. Well, if you believe that, put $100 on Kyler Murray. Take a shot to win $1,600 this coming year. Those are the NFL MVP odds. Now, I have one last segment we're going to do today. Normally right now what I'll do is I'll answer questions that are sent into our website. But because we're doing the show 3 days a week now, I'm not going to answer questions today, but I am going to invite everybody, go to the website, which is sportstradingsystems.com. There's a link in the description below where you can go to the website and check it out. You can go there. You can join the newsletter. If you're a newsletter follower, if you guys get the newsletter, you can send me your questions, and I will answer them on this show. And the questions can be about anything. I would like them to be about sports trading, which is what I do. So ask me some questions about that, and I'd be happy to answer them. Today, we're going to do a brand new segment, which we've never done before, which is called What's on My Twitter Feed. I opened up my Twitter account today. By the way, I'll put my link for my Twitter account below as well if you guys want to follow me. I opened up my Twitter account today, and these are the tweets that popped up to me right away. Number one, those who scoff at Jason Garrett running the Giants offense may not realize that the Cowboys offense ranked number one statistically in 2019. That is incredibly true. That is true. My biggest concern is that you're going to take Daniel Jones in New York, and he's going to work in a brand new system, and he's only a second year, so you're already changing this kid's system already. So 2 years ago, he played in a college system. Last year, he learned a brand new system. This year, he's going to learn another brand new system. I think it's going to slow down his growth as a quarterback, and I'm totally against that for any quarterback, let alone a rookie coming into the league. Let's go to our next tweet, which is from Adam Schefter. Anything Schefter says is true. We all know that. NFL informed teams today that its virtual offseason now will be extended through the end of May, per the source. Initially, the virtual offseason was scheduled to only go through May 15th, now through the end of May. If you don't know what's going on, there's normally rookie minicamp now, and what the NFL is doing is instead of having the players show up in person, they're all working with the coaches over the computer. It's like purely educational, and all the players are doing it. I don't believe there's any type of physical activity happening in these virtual lessons. I could be wrong. And I think because of the situation, the NFL decided, look, let's sit down with the Players Association. We've already worked with their union, saying they can only work this amount of time for the rookie camps, but let's extend that because obviously we don't want these rookies to fall too far behind because that would be detrimental to them in the long run as far as them making more money. So I think there was some agreement that happened there, and they've extended the time the coaches can work with the players. Tweet number 3, appearing on CNBC, Panthers owner David Pepper talks about the possibility of open but not full stadiums for 2020. This comes on the heels of the commissioner sending out a memo to all owners saying, please do not talk about stadiums and putting people in them. So this is what happens when you have a billionaire hedge fund owner who does not listen to anybody, and he owns an NFL team. He just is operating on his own rules altogether. So good for you, David Tepper. Last but not least, this is a topic that has not been talked about enough in the world of sports. I am so happy today that this one was brought up on the Twitter feed. I am so happy that we can finally debate it, and because no one talks about this. It's so good that this is being brought up right now. Who's better, LeBron or MJ? And I don't think. I mean, if you want to rank the best NBA players, I guess it's kind of topical right now with the Last Dance thing going on. But when you end it by saying, "Who do you think is the GOAT?" Come on, man. I mean, what are we doing here? This debate has to happen again. It's a never-ending debate, which is, hey, it's a compliment to both guys that it's a never-ending debate. There's two guys that people are talking about this way all the time. So I don't know that there is an answer to this. I will say this. As opposed to doing that, I would like to approach this from a different way. I really don't like that people are always calling each other the GOAT. Everyone is the GOAT. Oh, that guy's the GOAT. That guy's the GOAT. GOAT stands for the greatest of all time. So there can only be one. There can only be one. I think Muhammad Ali said that. There can only be one greatest of all time. So, I don't know. That's how I feel about that. My name is John Tedora. I am the sports trader. If you've watched this show all the way through, I do really, really appreciate you doing so. Smash the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Share this video with some friends. Hopefully you guys learned a little bit here today about some of the things that are going on in the world of sports. And hopefully you've learned a little bit about sports trading. I only touched on it just a brief bit during this show. I will talk about it more as we go along, which is, I think, worth the follow. Like I said, years ago I had a business. I sold my business. It's a true story. I had a few businesses, actually. You can Google my name. I actually used to be somewhat important. No. My mom hears that. She'll be like, you're still important. Okay, anyway, you can Google my name. You can know that I'm a real person. I own several multi-million-dollar businesses. I sold them. I decided to take on a different life for myself. I was tired of working 95 hours a week. I was tired of having all this pressure, and I was tired of doing the things that I was doing. I kind of checked out for a minute, and I was only able to do it because during the time of owning those businesses, I developed a system that allowed me to see this sports for more than just sports, but to see it as an actual investment market of which I'm able to capitalize on and make a very, 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 very good amount of money every year. I make more money doing this than I've done anything in my whole life. And I've been truly blessed to have some great jobs and have some great business opportunities and make some great investments along the way. And I'm truly blessed by the fact that I was able to find this, and I would love to be able to teach you more about it. I'm not trying to sell you anything, just telling you to hit the subscribe button so you can learn more as we go along. All right, guys? My name is John Tedora. They call me the Sports Trader. Thank you so much for listening and watching today.